And
Welcome
welcome
to our
everybody.
webinar on guiding IT departments and
Change
PMOs through
is
change.
just the
If
rule
you
of the day
enjoy this
today,
topic,
and the
please
pace of
explore
change
our
just
YouTube
continues to
channel for more
accelerate.
videos and follow us
This
on
impacts
LinkedIn
us
to
on a
be in the
number of
know
different
for event
dimensions, whether it's
announcements and speaking
technologically, whether
engagements.
it be in our disciplines and the approaches that we take, and even how we handle things like portfolio management and move it into the more strategic realm. The question is, how do we move into this change, lean into it, and then be able to sustain it and succeed with it, and then get the outcomes that we're looking for? So just to set the stage a little bit, there's a prevalence of disconnect between strategy and value that exists in many organizations today. And in this age of digital transformation, many digital transformation efforts or programs within organizations are stalling and not really moving forward as the way as anticipated, let alone getting the value from those digital investments. In some cases, it's not clear, it's questionable, or maybe it's not even being achieved for many reasons. So there are gaps here, and that gap tends to be a strategic disconnect in the way that we handle these things and the way we align. We have misaligned execution priorities, meaning that we might be working with the wrong things or maybe not working on the right things first. Many of these larger efforts are cross-functional, and there are siloed efforts that are not in harmony and synchronization with one another, and it hampers an end-to-end enterprise view or success. And then there may be certain benefits and unclear benefits of what we expect out of these newer, maybe unfamiliar digital investments as we're breaking into new ground and things that we haven't tackled before. The answer to this really is to layer on more strategic portfolio management approaches and make sure that we connect strategic goals with our execution priorities, make sure we are in alignment and we're doing the right things for the organization and where the organization wants to go. Create digital cohesion across the enterprise investments, make sure that our cross-functional efforts across the enterprise are all marching in the same direction and to the right things. And then also accurately quantify, track, and report initiative benefits so that we understand, are we realizing the benefits? Are we getting the outcomes that we anticipated? Now, we've come a long way with traditional portfolio management over the years for a couple of decades. I mean, we've gotten better visibility into our portfolios, been able to track and report better and have better visibility. Many have been able to optimize better the allocation of resources and such. But this has gotten us to a point. But in this modern age with much uncertainty and change, we need to do more. And there's many tools out there today, even on the lower end of task management, that provides things that people are using today, but maybe not getting us to that full realm of strategic alignment portfolio management that we're looking for. So ultimately, we got to align strategy with execution in order to achieve success. And really aligning that means executing strategy in this age, but having shared objectives of business strategists, our leaders, to those executing the change, making sure that we're in alignment and doing the right things and that we're measuring true business value. What are we getting out of these efforts? Not just completing things for the sake of completing things. And it's a whole process involving people, strategy, and operations. And it's a system of strategy development and planning, organizational alignment and communication around all that, building project and other operational plans that help guide the execution of delivering on these things. And as we go, monitor, learn, test, and adapt and change as the situation on the ground changes or as our experience tells us that we should. Ultimately, this forms the basis for an increase in value by executing the strategy and getting us to where the organization needs to be. Now, the Gartner Group defines strategic portfolio management, the acronym of SPM, as a set of business capabilities, processes, and supporting technologies that can focus an organization's finite resources to execute enterprise-wide business strategy. Once again, that focus on enterprise-wide, making sure that we're doing these things across the board. Now, leadership requires SPM to support enterprise-wide strategy to execution, alignment, and adaptation, meaning we need this so that we can not only set the course, but also communicate and maintain the course and adjust as we need to. And the definition of the key business strategies and the desired business outcomes has to happen, but then we have to map them to key portfolio elements. The projects themselves are not the be-all and end-all. We have to map to things such as our business capabilities, our investments, our programs, any digital physical products or assets that we have, applications that are in the mix, let alone the projects themselves. And then when we capture and define and prioritize the business strategies, and we manage the execution of the initiatives and the projects that drive the achievement of those strategies. And then we need to have full visibility into the impacts of the core functional assets that we depend on or that need to be addressed in order to meet these things. For example, the strategies, the objectives, and the key results then have to be aligned with the projects, the epics, and the more agile things, or the indicated features that we might be working on in products. And those all need to be aligned or associated with things like our applications, our business capabilities, our products, or our value streams in order to take into context everything that we need to factor in to be successful. And this supports the three key stakeholder levels that we have in here: the leadership who sets that direction in the strategy, the IT and or functional management who owns the critical assets that we depend on here, and then the execution teams that actually deliver and then basically help us achieve the business goals that have been set forth. Now, in the shift towards SPM, a lot of it's about enabling organizational agility. It's that increased pace of change that we talk about that we have to respond to more quickly. Environmental turbulence, technological changes create strain for organizations that's difficult to stay on top of. And sometimes for that cross-functional type of view we need to embody maybe more enterprise PMO or EPMO type of capabilities within the organization, even if we don't have a formal EPMO. And then we also have to have the tools and supporting metrics that support all this. Now, the Gartner Group says SPM has three key attributes. It's portfolio alignment, which we're referring to here. Ongoing portfolio flexibility, meaning that we have to be able to adjust and do these things. It's not just one annual operating plan that we work with. And then value-driven decision-making, such that we're making decisions on these things based upon value and on the outcomes that we're looking for. And the Gartner study that was done here shows that organizations that are effective at all three aspects of this drive better business outcomes by almost 2 times or more than 2 times. Now, the opportunity here in these key findings is that only a vast minority of organizations are highly effective at all three attributes. We have room to grow in this marketplace to get better at all of these things. And that a fragmented approach to these things, a siloed approach, can hamper our effectiveness. It could lead to excessive costs, give us conflicting priorities, redundant things that we may be delivering things at the same time that maybe are doing the same things. Maybe we're delivering the wrong things because we have misaligned goals. And then ultimately, if we don't have a strategic outlook on this, we tend to get pulled away and drawn to the day-to-day crises and the operational needs that happen locally with our individual customers, internal and external. And this can unintentionally pull the enterprise away from its strategic objectives, meaning we may not get there, or we may not get there quick enough because we've been mired in the day-to-day. So we have to have a focus and make sure that we don't lose sight of the strategic objectives. Now, strategic portfolio management has a life cycle. And this is one that's been outlined by the Gartner Group, in the fact that when you look at the objectives that you set, and then you go through a prioritization process, and then determine what it is that you should be working on that are aligned with those objectives, and then allocate resources and finances to those things, and then have roadmaps that outline that. And then we go through the process of delivering that. Then hopefully when we deliver, we're delivering pieces of value at the end of the day, because we're delivering things that have value to the organization and to our customers. And then hopefully the value that we deliver is going to drive the outcomes that we desire. Now, we have to assess, and then we have to review, and then adapt and possibly change course, and then go through this cycle potentially again as we reprioritize, reallocate, deliver again, add value and outcomes. It's an ongoing process in the strategic portfolio management life cycle. It's not like just doing a one-time plan and then say, okay, let's execute to that plan. It's a living, breathing organism. And then we also then have to evolve our traditional governance approaches to be more outcome-oriented. As we look at some of this, look at traditional practices that we've had in PPM versus more evolved practices that need to happen with strategic portfolio management. For example, in the old days, we've had formalized, centralized decision rights where everything came from the top down and then we marched, okay? In the evolved practice, it's more distributed. And then we have both formal and informal decision rights more at the team or at the individual unit level. A one-size-fits-all singular approach doesn't meet the needs. We have a variety of different methodologies, types of work that are being done with an organization that might require different approaches, and we have to have adaptive approaches to meet enterprise needs so that different constituencies can do the work in the way they need to do the work and use the tools they need to get that work done. And then execution and compliance oriented, meaning we set out a plan and then all we were measured on in the old days was, have we executed? Have we delivered? Have we met dates? Have we complied with what was set out for us? Ultimately, we need to be sensitive to, are we delivering value? And is the needs on the ground changing? Are there risks to that? Are there opportunities to improve? We need to maybe not just march linearly to something that was originally outset. We need to evolve as situations change. And then we've had in the past more top-down policies and processes where today, in this day and age, especially with the more agile organizations, we should co-create policies and processes to make sure that we're meeting the needs and we're hearing the people closest to the work, people that are on the front lines that are doing those things, and have that feedback feed into what our plan actually is. Now, we realign these decisions to stakeholder strengths at these, and we outlined just 3 levels here. At the enterprise level, they have the more enterprise-wide visibility. They have enterprise financials, right? That are their strengths. And they set the overall strategic priorities, and they fund the annual portfolio strategies that we want, generally at a higher level if we're taking more lean type of approaches. And then they oversee the rollout of organization-wide big initiatives across big transformation, ERP, all those types of things. And at the cross-portfolio level, which is more kind of ePMO-ish, they have that cross-portfolio visibility. They have an idea on constraint management across the different constituencies, for example, different areas of the business, and they address those constraints and they provide recommendations to the enterprise level as they see those situations changing and as new opportunities or threats appear. And at the individual portfolio level and the individual departments or units within the business, they're the ones that have that frontline visibility. They do the execution and they can set the portfolio strategy for their world and their portion of all this. And they can determine allocating to the initiatives in their portfolio and reprioritize as those new portfolios emerge. Now, to sustain that, right, it can't just be a one-time thing. There's different key stakeholders in here, like the C-suite, the business and IT leaders, the portfolio leaders, the delivery teams themselves. And, we need to seek their buy-in early for these new decision frameworks, because it has to work for everybody. Everybody has to have something in it for them, right? What's in it for me is alone to meet the needs of the overall organization so that we can meet our needs in the context of delivering for the organization. And so we need to surface pain points with dialogue and meet with the stakeholders to identify what those are and have a collaborative approach to address them. We need to socialize incrementally these new approaches. So big bang approaches, because of the change management aspect of those things and the cultural things, often don't work. We need to implement the framework gradually, but position this change is that we're moving towards achieving greater autonomy for the constituencies, the business and IT leaders, and enable the C-suite to be more strategic and delegate and democratize what they do at the individual unit level or department level or individual portfolio level. And then implement continuous feedback. Demonstrate to the stakeholders how their feedback is shaping the new framework and achieving better adoption across the board. So this collaborative approach makes sure that we're getting all the information we need, we're making decisions based upon real information and current information, and we're adjusting as we need to. Now, this means that we don't fly blindly in a democratized approach and we don't have anarchy. And we want to put a frame or boundaries around all this. So obviously, you've got to have more detailed and product team definitions to understand, who these constituencies and who these teams are made up of, and then have some central policies guiding team decision making, so that like a framework with which they can make their decisions that are within their purview, and then should have well-defined product North Star and key value indicators for our products and our projects that we're looking at delivering, and then have strategic reviews ongoing to ensure outcome alignment, making sure that the situations haven't changed and that we don't have to adjust in some way. The real key here is that you have to put a framework in place that gives guidance on how to make decisions and how to get the outcomes that we're looking for, but still have freedom enabling to enable those practitioners greater team agility and autonomy so they can respond better, deliver quicker, et cetera, and own their own product outcomes, and embed experts in those teams so they can make faster decision making when they have to go up several levels of the chain to get decisions made. Now, these reviews should be continuous. We should conduct outcome alignment reviews across the entire product lifecycle that we talked about. During the preparation stage, we assess the team's setup and make sure it aligns to producing the end user value that we're looking for. right, and validate those things. In the development side, we need to review our key performance indicators and our key value indicators for performance so that we can have a common view of outcome alignment and assess risk management of anything that might be on our way of achieving those things. And as we deliver these things ongoing and iteratively, facilitate meetings, right, ongoing to correct or reprioritize these things as needed. Ultimately, senior leadership, whether it be a CIO, they will evaluate these things at different points in the life cycle and see if we are aligned, if we are destined, or have we attained the outcomes that we're looking for, and offer course correction where it's needed. Now, OnePlan, as an organization, as a solution, provides a path to full strategic portfolio management for you, regardless of wherever you're starting from in your maturity in this area. You know, there's the strategy that the business leaders put in place, and developing OKRs or other strategic hierarchies that you might be looking for to put those strategies in place so that they can be the guiding force between what the execution leaders are doing, regardless of how they're executing, whether it's more adaptive approaches, whether it's more professional services, whether it's more agile, maybe whether it's more product development methodologies. The idea is whatever they're delivering, deliver it in a way that's conducive to them to help achieve those strategies that have been outlined by our business leaders. And then ultimately, those work efforts are dependent on, or at least associated with, other elements of enterprise and business architecture, meaning there are applications, there are products, there are business capabilities that may have to be modified, changed, updated, replaced in order to succeed with the things that we're executing on in order to achieve the overall strategy, especially in this age of transformation. Now, OnePlan also provides you that flexibility. We talked about people being able to need to work the way they want with the tools that are most conducive to them. Now, OnePlan connects strategy to execution by providing that portfolio level that we're looking at, but allow people to work with the tools that make most sense to them. Now, don't get me wrong, OnePlan does have all the tools that you need for waterfall planning or agile planning or hybrid planning, but the reality is that in many organizations, the culture has already committed to different execution tools in different departments or different functional areas. So the ability for us with our built-in connectors to connect to things like Microsoft Project for the web, now called Planner, Smartsheet, Azure DevOps, Jira, other tools like that, and feed that into this portfolio mix is something that is a success factor and removes a barrier to getting this strategic portfolio in place, and mitigates the resistance or the fight that you might have to have in order to replace those tools when you absolutely don't have to. Now, OnePlan provides a rich set of capabilities in these areas, whether it be on the strategy side, to be able to build up a full set of OKRs for your organization, identify light enterprise architecture elements, whether it be for those products, those applications, those business capabilities, identify value streams, whatever it might be. And then a full ideation process where you can have intake on requests and ideas that come in that hopefully can be assessed in the context of how well they align with the strategies that have been outlaid. And then as you factor in those things that have been requested, ultimately arriving at a portfolio of things that you're going to work on and have different views of those portfolios depending on if you're more waterfall, agile, or more roadmap oriented, and then put into the context resource capacity. Do we have the capacity to deliver on these things with the resources that we have? Or should we modify our selection and pare that down, or go out and get more resources to make those happen? The detailed financial aspects of these things fit within our budgets. And by the way, the financial side can also be used to identify and quantify anticipated benefits and realized benefits, whether it be more cost savings or more revenue side of things. And then what if scenario modeling? We keep talking about adaptation and adapting to change. Being able to do what if scenario models in here without impacting your core production data to identify and evaluate alternatives is something that's in OnePlan as well. On the execution side, waterfall planning and agile planning are both in OnePlan itself natively. But what the icons show you down below here is that you can bring in the most popular tools in here to bring that planning data into here and factor it in and roll that up into the portfolio that we're talking about, let alone manage issue risks and changes. The individual resource managers, a resource management piece of that, have to resource plan on an individual project and work effort basis or initiative basis and have that all roll up into that larger capacity plan at the portfolio level that we talked about. Now, team members, whether it be just giving status in my work, in the my work area to give them progress and comments and updates on how they're doing on the things they've been assigned, or if you have to report time because they're capitalizing labor or charging back within your organization or even billing external clients. Those things are all native within the solution and allows you to have that feedback readily available without having to do something via email or phone calls or whatever it might be. And then the reporting side, individual project status reports, dashboards at the portfolio level, for example, or portfolio levels, is something that's a natural output of the process now. We're not building these things every reporting period from scratch. And then visualizations. We talked about all these elements of assets and applications and products and business capabilities and strategies. How do these things align and how do they interrelate, and be able to visualize those things is important as we're making decisions. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, OnePlan is at the forefront of artificial intelligence for strategic portfolio management, and our Sophia GPT assistant is there to help us in all the dimensions of this as we look to make decisions and analyze what we're doing and actually make our work easier. The key here is we want to select the right work to do, but we also want to execute the work well and do the work right. Now, this applies no matter where you're at in the organization. More and more as we talk about these larger transformation things that happen that touch different parts of our organization, we need to have the ability to bring people together into a common set of portfolio management context, yet give each of them the latitude to work the way they need to for the types of work that they have. For example, a marketing organization is not going to have the same needs as a product development organization or as an IT organization. To basically have that framework we talked about, but with the latitude to do the things within that framework that they can do the work that they need to, but still participate as a corporate citizen towards that overall portfolio, is something that's very important that we strive to do with OnePlan. So OnePlan and Sophia GPT, using the AI component, it's available to you as a core capability within OnePlan. It's not something premium. It basically allows you, in wherever you're at in context, to work with that and give it prompts to help you with the things that you're working with at any given point in time. And the things that can help you with today, it's always evolving, but it can help you with strategic planning, portfolio optimization, work management, risk assessment, resource allocation, investment and financial forecasting and analysis. So the idea there is these are things that can be done today in reality. This is not just futuristic hype. So with that, I thought I would just kind of give you a brief view today and just whet your appetite on OnePlan as far as what it can do for you. And I think I'll just start with that early part on the strategic objectives. And if we look at building strategies, and here in the My Strategy area of OnePlan, you have objectives and key results that are established. And for example, let me just expand this out, you can see that each objective has some tangible key results or measurements of how we're doing on achieving those particular strategies. And if we wanted to drill into a specific objective or strategy, you can define, and we have templates to get you started with this, but templates to define this objective in detail, give it a time frame in which you have to do this, prioritization of these types of things. And in this case, it's associated with key results that we're looking at achieving. Now, let me drill into a key result here of reduced server downtime by 50%. The details here now have their own set of details that are relevant to key results that are tangible measurements, like this is a percentage metric and it's a current target number that we have and how many we've achieved and where we're at 70% on that metric and how we're doing on our current metric trend and our description of that, but also now how this is aligned with different plans or projects, how this is aligned with different enterprise architecture elements is something that gives us some analysis in here. And as we look at this, that visualizer that I talked about in the slide will give us an idea what kind of predecessors or successors that we might have, or in an overall runway approach, how this key result ties back to that objective, and then what related projects and epics in this particular case we have. In this case, how they're associated with different products, applications, and capabilities, and potentially even value streams that you identify, and understand the things that we need to consider. And when things are going red, yellow, green, or off track, understand where we may be at risk in achieving any one of these elements individually. Okay. Now, as I go back and decide to maybe go in the next stage of this, we're going to have ideas and requests that come in through our organization. And in those ideas and requests that come in through the organization, we probably want to decide on whether or not we pursue these based on a number of different factors. It can be maybe some crowdsourcing or voting on these things and how popular those items are, how well they align with different key objectives or strategies that you might look at, how they are prioritized as far as prioritization scores that you might have regarding those based on some business drivers or other metrics or approaches that you might be doing in a spreadsheet or something like that today. The key there is that based on those, you can make decisions on what you can actually elevate into your active portfolio. And if we drill into one, you can see that on the detail side of things, there is a specific form or details page for these things that might have an approval process, might have business case narratives that you can put in, financial and prioritization mechanisms in here, and what plans might be already associated or affiliated with this that we might have to consider as we go on through. And the idea there is that we can make decisions based upon more complete data, and that can be as robust a data collection element as you would like to be within your organization. Now, I would say this, to just give you a quick example of how Sophia and the AI might be used. Let's say we have just a ton of ideas that we're looking at, right? And we want to go in here and ask it a question like, based on votes, priority, and ROI, what 3 projects should we approve first and why? And let's just ask Sophia what she thinks about that by factoring in all the elements that we have here within this. We give her a second to think, and she's leveraging Microsoft's Azure OpenAI, which has got more control, security, and compliance than it does in the open internet with OpenAI. And it's leveraging what it's learned about OnePlan and strategic portfolio management. It's been trained on that. But transactionally, it's looking at your data on the screen and basically giving you an analysis. And here it's outlining the methodology it's using for its decision. And then it's calculating and telling you how it's going to calculate this. And then it's going to give you its suggestions on website redesign and on DevOps implementation and the rationale it's going to give you behind that. All in all, Sophia is going to give us some assistance. Ultimately, we're making the decisions, but it's giving us some analysis on a multidimensional basis that we might not be able to do all on our own, okay? And then ultimately, you can promote these items into portfolio items by simply doing workflow to approve this and move it forward, or do what we call a reorganize to basically convert or move this into a active portfolio item. Now your portfolio can look something like this. And that portfolio would have the ability to have a flexible primary hierarchy that you might want. In this case, we've got a portfolio level with 1 or more portfolios. You'll see 8 portfolios here on the screen right now. And then within those, we have a program level. And then underneath those, we have projects and epics. And if you want to get down to specific features that you're dealing with, you can get down to that level too. But once again, this is a hierarchy that's configurable by you on the way that you'd like to look at the world. And if I open up any particular portfolio and set of programs, you'll see that there's projects and epics within there. Now, these list views can bring in any number of columns of data. You know, this particular one is more KPI type of oriented, right? As we're looking at this, and it's leveraging the primary hierarchy as we're looking at this, right? Notice that there's connector icons here that'll tell me whether we're connected to other tools other than OnePlan right here. So this one tells me that I'm connected for Teams for content and collaboration. This one I'm connected to Azure DevOps, but I'm for the work plan, but I'm actually connected to Teams for content and collaboration as well. And the idea here is it gives me an indication where I might be using OnePlan by itself. In this case, I might be using OnePlan here only within this, and only using Teams for content and collaboration, but all the scheduling and all the details are being done within OnePlan. You know, these list views are very flexible. So for example, we have snapshotted data, so we can have trending views of how we're doing on our portfolio items via the trends. So as we load that up, you can see different key metrics and how they're trending for us. We might even just strip out that primary hierarchy, flat view of all of our projects, and whatever data and metadata you put against your projects, you can basically look at this in a filtered and grouped way and summarized way by anything you want. For example, if I didn't want to look at it by our primary hierarchy, but I want to look at it by business unit, I now organize this by business unit. And if I want to focus on all of our capital planning projects, here they are, and here's how we're doing on those things. And we can filter by those same parameters. Maybe I categorize our projects by different types of projects, and I can now look at my portfolio in that way. and look at this and say, all right, where are our compliance projects and how we're doing on those? And we're mostly green on this, which I'm happy about. So the idea there is you have very flexible list views that you can do, as well as board views for the more agile-oriented people. This is very key if people are doing things like program increment planning up at the portfolio level. And this board view in this particular case is looking at board by state, what's proposed, active, closed, and on hold. The colors of the cards are basically giving us indication of the overall health as we're looking at that. And then you can have columns and swim lanes in here. So if I want to look at this by another thing, by say board by, let's just say status health by goals, let's say. This might give me a more zoomed out view that I have basically the goals, customer satisfaction, grow the business, what fits in there. And on the swim lanes, which of these are on track, which of them are at risk, and which of them are off track. And you can hover and see the details of the card at any given point in time. But also, you can also get the details on any one of these projects very quickly, because the card only holds so much information, but all the details of why this one might be yellow in market research, I can drill in and see that, okay, we're behind schedule, or our schedule's at risk, as well as the financials here are at risk as well. And I can get to this or drill into any specific area here at any time I want. And we also have roadmap views that give us that kind of roadmap perspective with, once again, flexible structuring. In this case, their swim lanes are done by business unit, but if I wanted to go by that same category type of approach, I can now see the compliance projects and the roadmap for those right here. So once again, high level, very flexible things that we'd like to do. Now, if I go to back to say our list view, and I open up our portfolio again, and I drill into a specific project, these are the details that we would actually be working with. There's basically a details page that's specific to this that brings forth potentially the business case information that you have, and all the details around that particular plan in a configurable fashion, including your KPIs. The work plan itself gives you the ability to build work plans right here in OnePlan, either via templates or from scratch, or even have the AI build a plan for you, which is really a cool thing. And in that, we can come in here and I can actually, look at an overall plan. Let me go into a schedule first off, which is more of a waterfall oriented or more comprehensive hybrid view of the world. And here I can look at the entire plan that was either built here in OnePlan or synchronized with something like a Microsoft project. And I can even interject things like Gantt chart bars at any given point in time and work with those as I see fit. Now, just like we have in the portfolio, we have the concept of not portfolio plan types, but also work types. So for example, here we've got a schedule work type, a backlog work type for more agile things, but also tracking things like risks, issues, changes, and even key decisions. And you can add your own work types in here if you want to. The backlog work types, it could pull that in from another tool or from right here. And the nice part here is you can develop your backlog hierarchy as you see fit. And then you can actually interject things like your sprint plans. Let me do that. Let me go interject our sprints and understand what sprints and what capacity, which of these elements are in the sprint 3, for example, that I can isolate into and allocate those things across the board. And we can work with these plans in terms of as a board or as a list as you see fit. So once again, all these things are available to you, as well as detailed resource planning for capacity planning. And we can plan in terms of hours, FTEs, percentages of allocation. We got financials with detailed financial tracking that allow you to develop your cost categories, both labor and non-labor alike, and be able to track those and roll those up into the portfolio, right? And then just overall reporting. A pain for a lot of people is individual project status reporting, to have a format that automatically gets populated with the objective data, but then also have areas in here where you can fill in your own narrative for each specific period. And as you submit these things, it's actually going to store a snapshot version of your status reports each reporting period and allow you to do things like that trending we talked about, as well as send copies of this via PDF or Word or email to anybody inside or outside of your organization if you see fit. Okay, so all of this reporting is available to us, as well as overall dashboard reporting and such like that. Now, we talked about the resource plans. Now, as we go up to an overall rolled up resource plan for the organization, what we do get is an aggregation of what we're looking at from an overall resource perspective. And in that, we can look at this from a variety of different ways. I can just look at these resource plans, say by business unit. I could look at it by roles. I can look at it by individuals, however you'd like to look at this. But let me go look at this by role for right now. And in that, let me just drill into the developers, which I can see that my developers look like overall I'm in good shape as far as capacity. I've got a little bit of yellow here. But as I go down into specific folks, I can see a couple things. One, I can look at the generic developers and see that I have generic assignments that I haven't really assigned to any person yet. And the idea there is, how can I find candidates to do that? So for example, if I look at this customer experience project and I look for what we call candidates, I can find best matches. I can look for resources by criteria. In this particular case, I can see that, maybe Ehrlich Bachman is somebody that I could replace this generic with and do a replacement right here. And it's very easy for us to get that resource balancing that we might want to do right from this particular place. I could also take an overloaded person like Jared Dunn here, or Toby Stevens here. Toby's got a lot of overallocation in this demo environment. And I can come into here and I could say, all right, let me get him off of something here. And let me say, maybe I should look at getting him off of this, let's see, I don't know, this JIRA piece. And as I look for candidates in there as well, I can come in here and see that there's other people that do have bandwidth that I can replace him with to relieve him of some of that and get some of that overloading. It looks like Toby is a very popular person within his organization. Once again, all these things are available to us right here within this, and we can plan both upfront commitments, we can plan detailed schedule resources that are rolled up from our schedules, as well as actuals that might come in from a timesheet or another source. Now, the what if modeling that we talked about, that is a modeling capability that is pretty slick. It gives us the ability to create models, meaning that we can select projects and potential projects that we'd like to potentially see done. In this case, if I look at the model in general, there is a total of 42 items that we're considering doing, right? And as we look at this and I say, do we have the resources to do this? I would sit there and say, well, let's see, this is a 2025 model. So let me go in and say in 2025, I've got a significant amount of red in here I'd have to reconcile. It looks like I can't do all of this as it sees fit. And if I look at this from a budget perspective, I can look at it and say, it's going to take me, over $21 million to do all this. So if I look at this and I do some selection and deselection of projects over here based upon criteria, I can come in here and actually look at different scenarios, and through selection and changing the timing of those projects, I could come in and say, all right, what if my budget was $10 million? And in there, I could do selections and deselections of these projects based upon priority. So it looks like I've deselected the lowest priority projects here, and the higher priority projects are still here. And if I go now and look at this, and I go look at the dollars to fit within this $10 million budget, and I go look at this with this selection in this particular model, I can see that I'm just almost down to that 10 million. I'm in that kind of realm for that overall period that fits within that, as well as in the budget period in total. I'm fitting within that area in that mix. And if I look at the resource side of things, I can also take into that context, do I have the resources that I need in order to be able to make that happen? And I can look at that in that context, and I can look at this model from that lens, and you can see that I've only got a very little bit of red and yellow in here, meaning I have a much more achievable solution here. Now, if I come in here and I decide that I want to look at, say, a $15 million budget, I can run a different scenario and save it as a $15 million budget and look at it from that perspective as well. But ultimately, you can run as many scenarios as you want and then analyze them. So as I come in here and I look at this, I can look at, say, a list, and the last two that I just talked about, the $15 million and the $10 million. In the $10 million one, I can do 20 projects. In the $15 million, I can do 27, okay? Now, for that $5 million of extra investment, it's going to take more resources than I thought I was going to need. But it says the benefits, I can get almost $16 million more in benefit for another $5 million investment. I might want to see if it's worthwhile to staff up to get the resources and or get the dollars in order to get those and achieve those benefits here. And I can run those types of analysis here as I see fit. I can also do, the traditional bubble chart analysis in here and look at these things and say, are these things high prioritization and high benefits? Do they fit within the mix? The things that I didn't select, where do they fit in the mix? And are there things in these grays that I should reconsider? Another aspect in that. And I can also use the visualizer in another context here within the modeler to basically say, am I overlooking anything here? So for example, this is taking here saying, of the selected plans, are there any predecessors and successors that I did not select that I need to reconsider? Are they mandatory that I do those things in order to get these other things done? And I might have to do some replacements, okay? A whole nother thing that we have, a little different than the overall runway and all the different things that we have that are resource allocated to one another, okay? And I'll talk about lightly, just real quick before I go to the enterprise architecture elements. The enterprise architecture piece of this allows us to define other portfolios of enterprise architecture elements. And in that, you might have a product portfolio. In this case, I got a more global view. The business capabilities portfolio. You might have an application portfolio, et cetera. And as you go through here, you can actually align these with and associate them with projects, with strategies, with other things. And if I drill into a specific element here, like an application, you'll see that we have a whole different kind of form in here for an application. We have the life cycle of an application. We have an application vision and a canvas down here describing the different elements of that. You might have total cost of these things as far as upgrades and such. You might have work plans around this for the different release plans and upgrade plans and things like that. And also see the different associated enterprise architecture elements and plans that these are aligned to. And in this particular case, because I'm sitting within an application, if I did the visualization from this perspective, I would actually see that I have some successors here, but my real interest here is for this particular application, what else do I need to consider here? So I got in this application that I have different projects and epics that are associated with this, one of which is red, and I could possibly look at the details around that if I wanted to, but I can also see that it's key and aligned with a key result and strategy that we're trying to achieve. So the idea here is we can factor all these things in our decision making as we expand our collaborative decision making and get the inputs we need for those decisions. So hopefully that gave you a flavor, a little bit about OnePlan and how it meets the needs of those strategic portfolio management capabilities. So let's summarize and talk about some next steps. What we talked about here is strategic portfolio management has become important in today's business environments because of increased complexity, fast pace of change. It requires us to have enhanced methods and approaches. And that there is a prevalent disconnect between strategy and value in many organizations today, and governance approaches consequently need to evolve to become more outcome oriented. And then our decisions should be more aligned with the strengths of our stakeholders, and we should maintain their involvement through collaboration through the entire strategic portfolio management lifecycle. And then we should strive to provide the proper amount of team autonomy so that they can make quicker, more relevant decisions and deliver quicker with the right things, but do so within established boundaries. Now, OnePlan, we hopefully showed you, provided end-to-end strategic portfolio management, and we deliver this via the Microsoft Cloud, which is important for you folks that have a Microsoft ecosystem. And the use of AI provides valuable assistance in helping us do analysis and other things that we have other webinars that we've gone into that go into that in great depth, but I just flashed that at you today. Now, OnePlan does this for a living. We're not a general software house or systems integrator. We're consistently recognized as a market leader in project and portfolio management. Microsoft recognized us for 5 consecutive years as their global partner of the year and/or finalist in that realm. Gartner has us recognized in once again this year in its Peer Insights Voice of the Customer for strategic portfolio management. Forrester has us as a strong performer in their Forrester Wave for strategic portfolio management, and Infotech Research recognizes us as well as other review organizations. And we do offer free trials. And if you want the full strategic portfolio management experience, just go to oneplan.ai/solutions and pick the strategic portfolio management template. And reach out to us if you'd like some complimentary assistance getting that set up or answer questions about how to optimize the things for your particular trial experience. This is also available up on Microsoft AppSource as well. Now, the trial, we encourage you to engage with us and take advantage of that free trial. We do offer free roadmap workshops. So if you're kind of just curious at this point, want to understand what it would take from what you're doing today to get to at least some of the things that you saw today. We can help you understand what it takes to get from point A to point B, and maybe understand maybe what you already own that you might be able to leverage, and maybe look at what incremental investments you might need in order to get to some of these concepts. And if you're not even there yet, I did a very high-level demo. If you'd like a personalized one-on-one demo that addresses your particular requirements, your use cases, your pain points, just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai. We're happy to align you with a representative who can speak to these things to you in more detail. And if you're not there either, just look us up at www.oneplan.ai and do some research. There's a lot of rich information out there so that you can do a little more research on us. So with that, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for your valuable time today. We call this kind of bringing everything into a portfolio hub for strategic portfolio management. We call that the power of one. And truly, we'd really like to engage with you. Even if you'd just like to inquire and learn more, reach out to us and we're happy to help. Hope you have a great day.